rebel force has penetrated the shield and landed on Endor.
This is where the fun begins.
A long time ago, in a galaxy far, far away.
This is Rebel Force Radio.
Your source for the Force.
Star Wars news and commentary.
With Jason Swank and Jimmy Mack.
I've seen Star Wars 500 times.
Star Wars #1!
This station is now the ultimate power in the universe. I suggest we use it.
Now it's time for Rebel Force Radio.
We would be honored if you would join us.
Oh, we lost another one. James Earl Jones. You see those people online that they keep, like, ghosting out the original cast of Star Wars? Have you seen this? Every time we lose one, they're like, oh, no, then they turn them into a blue glow. I don't know how I feel about that. So it's a little morbid. Like, you got Mark and Harrison and Anthony Daniels are like the last three standing. And I noticed with this James Earl Jones, they take this photo. I wish I would have brought it up, but it just occurred to me as we were thinking about James Earl Jones. But they have this photo. I think it was like Empire Strikes Back era, where you got Anthony Daniels and Mark and Harrison and Carrie and Peter Mayhew and Kenny Baker, and they're in street clothes. I think they're at a premiere or something like that, and they keep ghosting them out. And then when James Earl Jones passed away this week, they added him, like superimposed him into this shot just so they could ghost him out. My God. Unbelievable. But no, we're going to have a special tribute coming up here to James Earl Jones as we look back on some of the lighter moments of him living up to this just legendary status. I mean, the guy was, that's a term that it's a label that's thrown around a lot. Legend, GOAT, one of the greatest of all times. But James Earl Jones was absolutely that in every way. So looking forward to looking back on a life well lived, 93 years old. Hard to get upset about that. It's never easy to lose somebody, but he lived a fantastic life. And also, there's some news about Star Wars Marvel Comics. We're going to get into that. Plus, a clip of Katie Sackhoff, Bo-Katan. We just had her here on RFR a few weeks ago as she's talking to Kevin Smith about Mandalorian. And since we had so much fun last week, why not do more Star Wars and pop culture? Yeah, we got through the backlog. And as soon as we get through it, you guys come through and send us a whole bunch of new stuff. So anyway, great show this week. Thanks so much for joining us. If you are new to the program and introductions might be in order, my name is Jason. And with me, as always, my good friend and yours from Chicago, Jimmy Mack.
Hey, Jason. Hey, Star Wars fans. Man, I am so excited to be here on Rebel Force Radio this week. I look forward to this every week. This is so much fun to get together with you, Jason, and share our Star Wars passion and fandom and knowledge with our listening audience, who we love so much. Unfortunately, this week we do have the bad news of James Earl Jones passing away. James was 93, and we will have a nice tribute for him coming up later in the show. But the good news is, according to the Babylon Bee, though many have claimed to have heard the voice of God throughout human history, the Lord will now have a voice that is highly identifiable by all people, as a representative from heaven has confirmed that the deceased James Earl Jones has been contracted to play God's voice for all of eternity. So we'll be hearing a lot more from James. From now until Judgment Day, James Earl Jones will be speaking he will be the spokesperson for the Lord Almighty. So God
who
bless
else?
J.E.J. Yeah,
who
right.
Else
who else? Exactly.
Pretty ironic for a kid that grew up with a stutter, just amazing.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah. To evolve into one of the greatest voices that has ever been revealed to society. I mean, I would just say pop culture or theater or film, but I mean, it's really, his voice had an impact on us as a society.
Yeah.
And that's really something that deserves to be celebrated. So we'll be doing that. celebrating the life of James Earl Jones coming up later in this show.
All right, well, we got lots to do. Let's jump in. How about a little listener mail?
Let's do it.
You must contact me.
Play back the entire message.
What message?
Message, Doctor, the message.
The Emperor commands you to make contact with him. It's a trick. Send no reply.
Hey, Jason. Hey, Jimmy. Got a random question I don't think you guys answered before. But if you could have any creature from the Star Wars universe as a pet, what would it be? A couple that come to mind, maybe a Rancor, maybe a Puffa-Pig, or maybe even that creature that farts in Episode 1 near Jar Jar Binks. Let me know your guys' thoughts and your answers, and thank you guys for all that you do.
Wow, boy, that is a good question. This is almost good enough for the Yoda questionnaire. It really is that good of a question. We'd have to check with Yoda, of course, to add that. I mean, I don't pretend to be as wise as him and come up with a question. But this is a great question because there's so many amazing creatures and critters and beasts in the Star Wars universe. I'm such a dog guy. I love my dog. I love dogs. And I know that Wookiees are... that was George's answer for his dog, his hairy co-pilot, Indiana, his Alaskan Malamute. But it's just too big, and I don't think it's legal to own a Wookiee. That's slavery. You can't really own one. So I'm going to go with Ewok. Can I own an Ewok? Is it wrong for me to think that just because they're smaller, I can own one?
Can you have an Ewok as a pet?
Yeah.
I'm trying to... Oh, I'm having a hard time.
I think I just got myself into trouble, but it was the first thing that came to my mind. Like, I would love to have an Ewok. When I was little, when I was a kid, I thought to be able to hang out with Wicket would have just been the coolest thing.
Jason's first imaginary friend was an Ewok. It was very disturbing when he was walking around the house as a 3-year-old speaking to nothing but air in the language of the Ewoks. His parents were very concerned.
Eat your mama, yum yum.
Yeah, that's it. What do Ewoks say? Well, they have yub nub, which is a very familiar phrase. That's you don't really have to go much further than yub nub. They do an Icha kind of thing, too. Icha wonky, Icha dookie, Icha dookie.
Icha dookie. So I don't know. Like I think the smaller ones, like a monkey lizard or something. I don't know. I'm thinking, Tauntaun. I could ride that to work.
That would be D. Bradley Baker's choice, I'm sure.
I'm sure, right. I don't know. What do you, Jim? What about you? What comes to mind for you?
Oh, you're giving up? Are you giving up?
I'm giving up because I'm going with Ewok, but I realize there's probably some kind of moral dilemma there. I think they are.
There is a huge because they're a sentient species.
Yeah. I can't own one.
They get instantly eliminated from the conversation. They're just another Star Wars alien. Why don't you say, I want to have a hammerhead as a pet? Or I would like to have a walrus man for a pet.
I'm terrible.
Yeah, that's not good.
All right, okay, my final answer. Here's my final answer.
Okay.
Tauntaun. I'm going with Tauntaun. Yep.
Final answer.
Yeah. I would love to have a Tauntaun because I would ride it to work.
Do you need a lifeline?
No, I'm going with
Final
Tauntaun.
answer.
There's not a lot of cuddly creatures in Star Wars. And I need something cuddly. I don't want a Kowakian monkey lizard. It's still scaly and leathery,
And semi-sentient as well.
Oh.
Or maybe completely sentient.
Well, they're eating them.
Because...
They're eating them, though.
Oh, they do eat them.
They're like chickens on a rotisserie.
Ooh, that's so wrong. Because I think they are semi-sentient.
Yeah?
Doesn't
they're aware of themselves, right? Or aware of their...
That little Salacious Crumb laughs at jokes. He obviously understands. My gosh, I don't know.
Yeah, tell you, Rob from Chicago has really opened a Pandora's box here because, what are you left with? You got Minox. Can't really hang out with a,
Not really.
Can't cuddle with a Minox.
What about a Porg? Have a little porg in a cage. You can have a little porg in a cage.
Porgs are cute.
Or
like a bird.
You have a dewback roaming the backyard, a dewback.
Oh, man. Imagine cleaning up after that.
Or like a bantha.
Oh, bantha would be cool, too.
Yeah, but imagine untangling all that hair. And
the matting. The grooming bills. You get that thing groomed? You know what that would cost?
Yeah, you'd have to comb a bantha, and it would be a very challenging situation to be in. You could have fish. There's some fish in the Star Wars universe. You see them around Naboo,
right?
Stuff like that. But knowing you, Swank, you'd take like a squid head and put him in a squid head in an aquarium.
Yeah. I'm like the kid in what was the Richard Pryor movie, The Toy? Yeah, I'll take him. Oh, God.
I have a choice, though. I have a preference. If I was to have an animal as a pet,
okay,
an animal from the Star Wars universe, and like you, Jason, I'm a dog lover. I love dogs, and I thought to myself, what's the closest thing to a dog that we see in the Star Wars universe? And me and Jason, we usually stick mostly to movie canon, film canon.
Mm-hmm.
We could get down in the weeds and talk about hoop jibs and all kind of crazy crap from the expanded universe. But, keeping it within the film canon, the G-level canon, the things that I like are like a dog, like you said. Mm-hmm. So I was thinking, what kind of animal in Star Wars is like that? And I landed on the much derided The Last Jedi film. And at the very end, you see those crystal foxes running around.
Like that.
I'd love to have one of those. You can't. They're difficult to pet because their coats are made up of these white crystal bristles, so they're hard to pet. But I'll take some Windex to them and clean them off and stuff. And, we could bond over that, and I could still take them for walks. Me and they're called, according to the Star Wars encyclopedias and whatnot, they're called Vulptexes. Vulptex. Vulptex. You can find them in the encyclopedias and visual dictionaries and all that. But to me, they're the crystal foxes from Crate.
Yeah.
And I dig them. I dig them a lot. And they kind of even have a musical quality. When they move around, it sounds sort of like wind chimes. So
that's right. There was that
neat.
effect.
That. Yeah. So you got those wind chimes cruising through the house, just like with your dog. Your dog walks through the house, usually has a collar on with some little metal
like
tags
a tag,
there
right.
that makes
Name
makes
tag.
a crude wind chime sound. And so the crystal.
Well, you always know they're coming.
Crate.
They can't really sneak up on you when they wind chime all that. This is a great question. And I'll bet, by the way, if this does ever get added to the Yoda questionnaire, it'll take a constitutional amendment. There's a lot of bureaucracy. But I bet I'm not going to be the only guy that's going to fall into this trap of choosing, individuals, sentient individual creatures as a pet. I'm sure we're going to get a lot of people falling into that trap.
Yeah, before you know it, he's going to want to have me as a pet. And I can't have that. I'm not pet worthy.
No.
I'm not pet worthy. I wouldn't be loyal.
That's a great question. That's a really great
And I'm
question.
difficult to housebreak, too. Very difficult to housebreak.
I would say impossible. I'll have to ask Wendy, but I'm guessing you still have an accident here or there.
I got underneath this chair I'm sitting in. We got the papers laid out.
Oh, the newspapers.
Just in case. Yeah.
Perfect. Mm-hmm. Hey, I'll tell you what. We've got something here. We were chatting a little bit off air. We think this may be a Rebel Force Radio exclusive. But if you're not on the RFR Facebook group, you're missing out. Check us out. Do a search and just hit the little button there to join. And you'll have to answer a couple of quick questions just to make sure you really are a listener to RFR and familiar with the program. And you'll be admitted in by one of our admins. Maybe even Jimmy Mack himself will let you in the doors. But once you're in the doors, it's a lot of fun, good conversation, always spirited, that's for sure. But we got a post from Jeff Ulickney, and if that name sounds familiar, if you longtime RFR fans, is it? No, it's Ulickney. I'm sorry, it's a s sound, not a k sound. Jeff Ulickney. That name sounds familiar. He's quite an esteemed musician, and is actually the producer of one Puppet Lando. That's right, Puppet Lando's producer, Jeff Ulickney. But check this message out we got from him. He says, I recently found out that a friend of mine went to high school with Dave Filoni. I did some digging in his yearbook and found some pics I thought you guys would enjoy. These are all from his senior year. Filoni graduated from Mount Lebanon High School in 1992, and Dave's from Michigan. He's a Michigan
He's
guy.
from Pittsburgh.
Or Pittsburgh, PA.
He's from Pittsburgh.
Sorry.
God, he's
the other rival.
Famous for being from Pittsburgh.
Yes,
And
of course.
Mount Lebanon is a suburb just outside of Pittsburgh. And Dave Filoni went to that high school, also notable in the Star Wars community for attending that high school, Ming-Na Wen.
Oh, Ming-Na.
But you didn't know that. Fennec Shan and Dave Filoni went to the same high school. Small world.
That's crazy. She went to the same high school as Dave Filoni. But this is another reason why you want to be on RFR All Access, because we're going to show you these photos. So check this out. So here he is up in the top left. David C. Filoni. Now, he's right there next to Sherry Flumara. And, you know, the thing about Sherry is she probably had the locker next to Filoni for their entire career as students together. You know how that was. Ashley Sweeney was next to me. Ashley Sweeney. I'll remember that forever because I had to, every time there was a break, to go to the lockers. So David C. Filoni, let me zoom in here. Look at, he's a nice looking kid. Nice looking kid.
Definitely looks like Filoni.
Yeah.
Sans cowboy hat.
Right.
And
so this is 1992.
And beard.
Yeah, no beard. Yep, clean shaven. 1992. I graduate. So he's just a little older than me. But this looks very, this is, my era of high school. So like the styles, the hair, everything looks very much like something that very familiar to me. Very familiar to me. Let's see here.
Hey, go back, zoom in on Filoni again for a second. He's got kind of a Tom Hanks type style going on there a little bit, don't you think? Look at that hairstyle and everything.
Maybe.
He's kind
I could see that.
Doing a Tom Hanks sort of thing here.
Yeah. He's got his,
he was very impressed by what would Tom Hanks have starred in? This is pre-Forrest Gump.
Oh, yeah,
So,
absolutely.
Maybe, yeah.
I don't know.
Maybe Dave's like, oh, yeah.
We like bosom buddies era? Was that what we're...
No, it would be after that. Well, after that. Maybe Dave is thinking, boy, I really enjoyed that guy in Philadelphia. I'm going to style my entire look
like,
after
what
him.
would it have been? What would have the Tom Hanks project been that Dave would have said, that's my look right there?
That's my look right there. I'm going for the Tom Hanks from this point forward. So there he is, a young Tom, Dave Filoni Hanks.
Yeah.
It's fun to see Dave with no beard.
Yeah.
No hat. And I have to say, it's the first time I've seen him wearing a suit and tie. I don't ever recall.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, maybe at an award show.
Awards, right.
Yeah.
All right, here's another picture of Dave. Look at him. He was in the band. He played trumpet. Check that out.
Right there. That looks like classic Dave Filoni right there. Like that could have been taken just a few weeks ago. Look at that guy. He's just like ready to blow that horn and march down the football field during halftime. It's Dave Filoni, future Star Wars creator, or I should say future Star Wars collaborator. Because he's not the creator of Star Wars.
Obviously, this isn't.
He has created a lot of Star Wars, but he's not the creator of Star Wars.
This isn't the full band, but it looks like he's got maybe a couple of majorettes he's flanked by. I don't know. I wasn't in that. I was a theater and a choir kid. I didn't do the band thing or the marching band, but so I'm not quite sure. But you got a couple of drummers there, and all right, what else we got? Oh, well, this was no surprise right here. Dave Filoni playing the hockey Did you have a high school hockey team, Jim, you went to high school?
Of course I did.
We did not have hockey at our high school.
That explains a lot. I don't know what I mean by that.
I don't know what that means.
I don't either, but it means something. It's more of a feeling than a meaning. But there's Dave Filoni. He's doing it looks like a glove side save there as he's almost going into a splits in the goalie crease. I wouldn't call it a butterfly save, but maybe that's just because I'm seeing the picture at the end of the play. But Dave's making it. It says Dave Filoni. Oh, he kicks the puck out of the crease.
Out of the crease.
Well, the crease is it's a little box that's in front of the goal where only the goalie is allowed to exist. If other players go in there, it's a penalty. And the crease is there to protect the goalie. So it could be a rounded off area or a squared off area, but that's where the goalie does his business. And that's what Dave Filoni was doing in this amazing action shot as he was a senior playing hockey for the Mount Lebanon Lebanese or whatever their name is. I don't know. But it says Dave Filoni kicks the puck out of the crease, again robbing an opposing forward of a scoring opportunity. Again. So Dave's reputation was already signed, sealed, and delivered by the time this high school yearbook went into publication. He already had the reputation as a goalie that shuts it down. You cannot score on Dave Filoni.
And for all you kids out there that are wondering, did they not have color photos back in the 90s? Yes, we had color photos in the 90s. But for the yearbooks, it would have made them really a lot more expensive. So typically, you might see the senior pictures were run in color. You might have some color photos maybe at the beginning of the book and the end of the book. But for the most part, they were still black and white. It's just more cost effective that way.
Yeah, it's kind of a timeless quality, too. That makes it consistent with yearbooks of decades past. So I don't know. I'm pretty sure yearbooks are in full color now, though.
They are in full color now, yeah. And then here, look at this. Here's Dave Filoni. Caption says, Dave Filoni checks to see if anyone is following him. Oh, this is one of those candid shots like, you're on the yearbook team or committee or whatever it is, the yearbook crew, and you snap a picture, a candid photo of Filoni in the hallways. And I'm thinking the fact that he was in the marching band, he played hockey, he's got this little candid photo. I have a feeling that Filoni might have been a popular guy. I'm getting that sense that he was probably well known, well liked. Just a sense that I get.
You know, it's rather uncommon for a jock to also be a member of the marching band. That seems rather uncommon to me. Filoni's sport was hockey. So it didn't, there's no marching band at the hockey games. I'll tell you that right now. But during football season, there's Dave out there marching on the field during halftime, playing things like Cool in the Gang Celebration. Think about that.
Hang on, Sloopy.
Yeah. Whipping out all the classics, maybe Twist and Shout, all of the good ones that you hear during halftime. There's Dave Filoni out there blowing the trumpet. Well, we all had to start somewhere. And Dave Filoni got his start in the suburbs of Pennsylvania, Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, at Mount Lebanon High School. Is that all we have from Dave? There's no...
I think that's it.
Most likely to work on Star Wars kind of notations or anything like that.
This was not... I don't think... Was this his senior year?
Yes.
Is that what it said?
Yeah, his senior year.
This was his senior year. Okay.
Yeah.
Wow, well, I can't believe that his senior picture wasn't run in. Boy, it wasn't run in color. Huh.
Well, that's how we did it in the 90s, son. So that's how that goes. But, if anybody else has any yearbooks featuring notable Star Wars personalities, send it our way. Did you go to high school with Kitster? We'd love to see photos. Maybe
This could be a whole new section of the show, a whole new segment.
Yeah. Star Wars Homecoming, we'll call it. And it's fun to take a blast in the past and see what Dave Filoni's all about. So, of course, that'll be part of the full show video that RFR All Access will receive. But I think maybe later in the week we'll throw this up on the old YouTube because it's really, I'm sure our All Access and VIP supporters will agree with us that this is something that really needs to be blasted out into the internet and let everybody see, where,
including Filoni.
Yeah,
Hopefully
well,
it gets back
that's
to him.
I want Dave to see this. This is one I want Dave to see. So, we'll probably put it out there. So keep an eye on our YouTube channel. We did release the White Sox video from last week, and everyone loved the. Hey, Grogu! Everyone loved it. So, hey, Grogu! Yeah. So that's a lot of laughs too. And you know why people
so happy
enjoy
to
that?
see you.
You know why people enjoy that part so much, Jason? Is because you laugh your ass off. And let's face it, everyone in this listening audience knows as well as I do, I don't think there's a more infectious laugh in podcasting or quite possibly the world than yours, Jason Swank. Best laugh in the business.
It's very nice of you. Oh, it's very nice.
Yeah,
very
baby.
nice of you to say thank you. Hey, Grogu! We're going to keep the exclusive train going here. Now, we can't claim sole credit on this one, Jim. You got to enlighten me because I was not aware that this existed. This is pretty exciting. We're sharing this with our good buddy Eastside Dave, but this is major. If you're an Acolyte fan, buckle in.
Yeah, this is a find by our pal Eastside Dave, and you can hear him talk about Star Wars on his show Yaddle Chattel. And or you could catch him in the wrestling rings out in the New Jersey area, and also he is a radio veteran, which is kind of something that makes me and Eastside Dave bond a little bit. And he brought me
because you've survived.
Yeah, right.
I think there's something about survival. There's you've been in the trenches. Yeah, you made it through.
It ain't easy. But we found Eastside Dave has discovered an extended scene from episode 6 of The Acolyte. It's an extended scene that he found. He'd been, turning over a lot of stones, going into crevices, spelunking for this material. He has connections, but what he found he had to bring to me so I could clean it up in the RFR Sound Lab, because you can only imagine what sort of crevices Eastside Dave is spelunking in. So we needed to clean this up to make it at least so the audio would be accessible to our ears. So I took it into the sound lab. I cleaned it up. But this is crazy. It's a scene from The Acolyte, episode 6, featuring Vernestra Rowe and Mog, Jedi Mog, fan favorite Jedi Mog. And, it really does something to establish the character and motivations of Mog.
Can I change my mind and say that the pet that I would want from the Star Wars universe is a Mog?
A Mog.
Can I have my own Mog?
Well, you don't have to feed him much. That's for sure. I can see.
No, he weighs 90 pounds soaking wet.
Yeah. They prefer to exist in a rather malnourished state. So, it wouldn't cost you much as far as the Mog kibble goes. Your Mog kibble bill would be very low. But here's the scene saved from the cutting room floor by Eastside Dave and RFR.
Have you heard from Master Soul?
No, but our team is ready and we depart in 20. Are you joining us on the mission, Master?
I am.
Don't you get nauseous in the tummy there when you fly? Don't you get a little sicky sick, do ya? Do you get a little bit of nauseousness, don't you, do it? Do you get a little bit of yellow guilt when you get a little bit green in the face, do you? When you get a little... Oh, you're already green in the face, Vanessa. Oh, you get a little queasy, did you, Mum?
I don't get sick. I find it unsettling.
don't worry. We're going to have a beautiful in-flight movie.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Right.
Boy, this really gives you a sense of Leslie Headland's, I think, original designs for the Mog character. I think there was a lot more to him, but as you know, Star Wars has a lot of it usually has a lot of characters battling it out for some time in the spotlight, and it just, you know, Mog came up short in this particular episode. What a loss.
But even more than just really firmly establishing the character of Mog and where this guy's head is, it also strips us of the great chemistry between Mog and Vernestra Rowe, too. I really love the part where he said, well, you're already green, aren't you? See, I mean, they just knew each other so well. And he called her Mom. They could work so well together. Yeah. So, yeah.
Take that on the road.
Yeah, they should. So that's probably the last thing we'll ever say about the Acolyte for as long as this show exists. But no, you know, the Acolyte sure takes its punches and gets kicked around an awful lot. And I'll just leave it at that. Okay.
Sure does. All right. What else we got? Oh, I know what we got. We got a little update here of what's going on with Patreon. Ooh. What is going on with Patreon?
Well, it's always great to discuss Patreon because I don't think there's a better place on the internet for not just only the RFR community, but Star Wars fandom in general. It's just a lot of good people populating the RFR Patreon page, which can be found at patreon.com/RebelForceRadio. This week we have a new edition of RFR Q&A. It's RFR Q&A number 216, Abbey Road, From the Beatles to Star Wars. The legendary recording studio in London where the Beatles, Pink Floyd, Oasis, a lot of bands created music is also the same place where John Williams conducted an orchestra to record many iconic tracks for the Star Wars soundtracks. Some of Empire, all of Jedi, all of George Lucas's prequels, and even some of the Star Wars sequels done under the Disney umbrella have been recorded at Abbey Road. And RFR VIP Peter Beiser recently visited Abbey Road, and he tells us everything he saw and everything he experienced and the vibes he felt, the energy he picked up on in those rooms. It's a really great conversation I had with Peter, and they're always great conversations I have with all of our VIPs. Me and Peter also break down. We name our top 5 all-time favorite record albums, and we break it all down, provide reasons why we made those choices. Those kind of lists are difficult for me. I really am not committing to them because I could change my mind on an instant about the rankings or what gets included and what doesn't get included. It's really hard for me. But in the moments, me and Peter talk about the albums that mean the most to us. So RFR on Patreon, patreon.com/RebelForceRadio is the only place where you can get bonus podcasts like RFR Q&A, like RFR RPG, which will be returning soon, and the Babu Freaks. Plus, you get all access to full show video, ad-free shows, early bird releases. We cross-post everything we put up on YouTube to our Patreon page, which is great because then you can get alerts about not only what we're publishing for Patreon audiences, not only what we're publishing on the regular RFR RSS feed, but you also get alerts when we're posting new content to YouTube. So it's a really, really great way to support RFR, connect with fellow RFR listeners, and get access to all sort of bonus content. And there's chats. There's a chat room. There's discussions going on about the latest in Star Wars and the latest RFR episodes. And also, we've made videos available for individual purchase. So if you don't want to fully commit to RFR All Access or RFR VIP on a monthly basis, but there's something you see in a full show video that, hey, maybe I'd be interested in watching that without making the full commitment, you can purchase just the video itself. So you could join for free too, which is a great way to sort of just get your, dip your toes into the water of what's going on Patreon. So there's availability to become part of the community by paying nothing or becoming, going all the way to the top tier, which is RFR VIP, and that's the tier which makes you eligible for the opportunity to host an episode of the very popular RFR Q&A. So join us for this party, patreon.com/Rebel Force Radio. Hope to see you there.
Hey, this is Dave Filoni, and you're listening to one of my favorite podcasts. In fact, the only podcast I listen to.
Rebel Force Radio!
I have good news for you, my lord.
That's good news.
Come closer, I have good news.
All right. Well, I don't think this qualifies, certainly doesn't qualify as good news, but it is news that we lost a legend this week. James Earl Jones had an amazing, incredible career that spanned many, many decades across really every conceivable genre of entertainment, from being an incredible master of the spoken word, narrating incredible works like the Bible. James Earl Jones, I've got it on disc, on CDs. James Earl Jones narrates the Bible. An incredible actor, both on stage and screen. Tony Award-winning actor, won 2 Tony Awards. And he's technically an EGOT. The thing that, the little asterisk that you get there is that the Oscar was an honorary Oscar. So when you get into the world of EGOTs, there's those that have won all the competitive awards, and there are some that have won, honorary awards. But you know what? I mean, when you get that close and you're James Earl Jones, he's probably overlooked. He probably should have won a competitive Oscar at some point. So let's just give it to him anyway. But incredible, incredible guy. And you know what, Jim? When someone like this passes away, and they've been around for decades and decades, it's always more impressive when you don't hear a single bad thing about them. I have never heard anyone say anything bad about James Earl Jones.
No, it definitely seemed like he was the type of guy who had a perfect personality. He was a very generous and supportive and collaborative actor and performer by all accounts. And everyone really was touched by sharing the stage or screen with him, or microphone, whatever the case may be. I mean, you talk about him being an EGOT. He's beyond an EGOT, really, because EGOT is beneath James Earl Jones. Let's look at
EGOTs want to be James Earl Jones.
No
right?
kidding.
Isn't that what the?
Well, look at the scoreboard, my friend. 3 Tony Awards. 2 Emmy Awards, the honorary Oscar, Academy Award you were talking about. He did win a Grammy. He had a Golden Globe. He's a Golden Globe winner, a SAG Lifetime Achievement Award recipient. He won the National Medal of Arts, the Kennedy Center Arts, and on top of it all, the little cherry on top, he's a Disney legend. So, I mean, his trophy case was full. And his achievements were even fuller. And his voice was the fullest, one of the greatest voices ever to be behind a microphone. Move over, Orson Welles. James Earl Jones is he is the king. He's more than just the Lion King. He is the king of all vocal performances. That's my take on it.
Yeah, really incredible. Obviously, my first understanding of who he was through Star Wars. And as a kid, obviously I didn't necessarily put 2 and 2 together until I would see some of the making of stuff. As 5-6-year-old kid, I just assumed that the actor in the suit was the actor doing the voice. Would find out that wasn't the case. And then as I started to grow up, and you go through that phase where you kind of discover that there's this thing called actors, and there are other things. And as a Star Wars fan growing up, if there was a Star Wars actor in something coming on TV, a movie that I hadn't seen, I had to watch it. I wanted to watch it. And James Earl Jones was obviously one of those. And he did this fantastic series called Gabriel's Fire. I think that might be what one of his Emmys was for. And he played a character that had been in prison and was being let out, and he was getting his first taste of freedom. And he gets a hot dog from this street vendor. This scene, I still remember this scene. I was probably 11, 12 years old when I saw this. And he's first time out of prison in many, many years. He gets this hot dog, and the scene, he just can't believe how it tastes, how it smells, the freedom, all of that. And it was such a moving performance that after 40 years, I still remember that performance. 30 years, I remember that performance from James Earl Jones. Also, in I think it was 8th grade, we listened to a record album. My speech teacher brought in an album of James Earl Jones doing a one-man play. And the name of it escapes me, but I just thought it was so cool that I got to spend at least one class in school listening to Darth Vader doing this play. So, he's one of those figures, one of those characters, one of those people that you just kind of assumed would always be there, because his voice was everywhere, whether it be CNN or narrating the Bible or in your favorite movies, Lion King, Field of Dreams. And then when they're gone, it just seems so final,
Yeah. Well, at least with James Earl Jones, Darth Vader will live on. And James Earl Jones's vocal performance as Darth Vader will live on in new stories because he sold the rights to his voice to Disney so they can continue to create dialogue for the Dark Lord in future Star Wars productions via AI. So my son brought up something to me today. He's like, did James record any specific things for Lucasfilm? He thought he had heard that somewhere. But I don't believe that's the case. I believe Lucasfilm is making a full-on recreation of the way Darth Vader sounded in the 70s and 80s. That's the specific voice they're going for.
Yeah.
Because as we know, James, his voice did age, and Darth Vader sounded maybe, a little tiny little bit off in things like Star Wars Rebels and Rogue One. It just there was a different overall sound because of the obvious time that had gone on between the 70s and then when James came back to Star Wars, it was in the mid 2010s.
I think the last thing he would have recorded new for Lucasfilm would have been for Rise of Skywalker, right?
Well, maybe. There was a VR game called Vader Immortal, I think was the name of it. And that featured the voice of James Earl Jones. And that may have been recorded prior to the Rise of Skywalker. I think you're absolutely right. Okay. I think at least that's the last time we heard him in any Star Wars production. So,
it wasn't the AI. And the stuff they did for Kenobi was phenomenal. I mean, it was the Vader of Empire Strikes Back, Return of the Jedi. Because the Vader in A New Hope is just a little more tinny, a little less resonant, a little less bassy. But the one that they did for Kenobi was just right out of that, Empire Jedi era.
Yeah. I mean, it's just amazing and scary what some of this technology can do now. But if a guy like James Earl Jones can cash in on his legacy and leave a big nest egg of cash for his family, then God bless him. That's all I got to say. As long as the actual talent gets compensated for the work and they're cool with it, then I think we're in for some really interesting times as far as entertainment goes in the next 20, 30 years. And the thing about James Earl Jones that we were talking about at the start of this tribute is the mad amount of awards he's received, EGOT or no EGOT. it doesn't matter when you have a trophy case as full as James Earl Jones does. But I did want to just play the one part of audio that we have from the 2011 Oscars when James received his Lifetime Achievement Award. Unfortunately, it was one of those things that happened prior to the actual Academy Awards broadcast. And
we all know that. At a ceremony held previously.
It was one of those. James was performing in London in a stage production and couldn't make it to L.A. for the Academy Awards. So they gave him the award, I think, on stage in the theater where he was performing. So here is a little bit of audio from the presentation, the video that they showed during the 2011 Oscars celebrating James Earl Jones and his lifetime achievement in cinema.
James Earl Jones from Star Wars.
I am your father.
The Lion King.
Remember who you are.
To Shakespeare, you're always so damn good.
I'm more than flabbergasted. There's a word I've learned here in Britain. They say, I'm gobsmacked.
I love that.
Wow.
Gobsmacked.
I do too. That voice, and it was so natural. It was just like breathing. For him, there was no put on. It was just whenever you see somebody that has one of those iconic voices, and it's hard to think of anybody more iconic than him. It's just incredible. It's just incredible. What an instrument he had.
It's not a put on, but he definitely would act with that voice. And there's a huge...
sure, of course.
There's a huge difference between the original Star Wars, which was just a one-day gig for him. He was in and out of there, read the lines, didn't know anything about it. And Empire. You hear a huge difference in the performance. He adds so much more to that performance in Empire Strikes Back. Because Darth Vader was primarily a goon in the original Star Wars. He really was.
Right.
He didn't really become a fully fleshed out character until Empire Strikes Back. One of the best, highest virtues of that sequel is the fact that it made Vader an actual fleshed out individual. And that didn't really exist prior to Empire. He was more, like I say, a goon. He would have probably been more in the Michael Myers, Jason from Friday the 13th club if they had meetings, as opposed to
a henchman.
The more Shakespearean, I would even say, kind of realization of the character of Darth Vader and the tragedy that surrounded the character, the duality of the individual inside the black armor. All of that stuff came to life in Empire Strikes Back.
And there's a lot made about the fact that he only was paid $7,000 to play the role of Darth Vader in the original Star Wars.
Yeah.
$7,000. So I just did a little math. I found that there's about 22 lines of dialogue in that first Star Wars film that we hear in the film. Now there's probably stuff that they cut out, but it's about $318 per line. That's not too bad for a day's work.
No, especially with 1977 money,
Well, I was going to say, what was $7,000 worth in 1977? I'm guessing. Oh, according to trusty Google, it's about $35,000 today. Wow, that's crazy. So, still not much. But here's the thing: I think a lot of people, Jim, miss that Star Wars was a relatively low budget film for the time. So it's not like he got this money for being a part of this huge franchise. And I think James did quite well by Lucasfilm over the years, and as well he should have.
Yes, and the legacy of Darth Vader and his contributions to that character was something that he celebrated not only in public but in private, and because he fully embraced his identity as Darth Vader. So much so that he revealed something very interesting on the Craig Ferguson show when he revealed that the persona of Darth Vader sometimes does enter into his private life and his hobbies.
I used to use a CB radio, and I used Darth Vader as my handle.
Did you really?
Freak people out.
Oh, Ben did, yeah.
I had to stop doing that.
Oh, no, you should do it more often.
Truckers would just freak out, and I stopped doing it.
Well, a lot of the
because it sounded like Darth Vader.
Well, it is Darth Vader. It is Darth. It's you did the voice of Darth Vader, and it's Darth Vader.
Truckers would just freak out, you know?
Yeah. I remember hearing that. I was so happy because we played this before on this show. It's a great clip from the Ferguson show. But I was so happy to hear it because I remembered hearing him tell that story. It must have been on Carson or Letterman, you know, as a kid growing up. Jim, I wanted to share this because, you know, I've been really lucky to be professionally employed in the professional theater industry over the last 15 years. And of course, James Earl Jones casts an enormous shadow in that industry. He recently had one of the Broadway theaters named after him. And someone I know who's also a sort of a more behind the scenes, a legend in the business. I asked her if she had any memories of working with James Earl Jones, and she did. And so she sent me this note. She said, this 20-something at the time had the honor and pleasure of driving Mr. Jones around for his publicity day when he toured in the one-man show Paul Robeson 40 years ago. Just picture the two of us in my Chevy Chevette, and all this was happening when the media in the movie studios acknowledged that he was the voice of Darth Vader. We talked about it, and without requesting or prompting in his majestic and glorious voice, he kindly reenacted several scenes with the iconic lines from Star Wars for me in the car. When it appeared we were going to be late, he wanted to stop at a local store, returning to the theater for rehearsal. He told me... Hold on a second. I'm so sorry. Okay. When it appeared we were going to be late, he wanted to stop at a local store. Returning to the theater for rehearsal, he turned to me and in his signature Darth Vader voice, he recited a brief line from Star Wars, "Leave it to me."
Ooh.
Perfect pause and inflection. He was kind and a magnificent actor in person. I did see him again during my career and recounted the story. He said he remembered, but was, of course, too kind to say otherwise. It was a thrill of a lifetime. Rest, dear James Earl Jones. So just a personal friend of mine that actually had an interaction with James Earl Jones many, many decades ago as he was a touring actor at that time, still, you know, playing the boards, as they say, across the United States.
Leave it to me. I will deal with it myself. But yeah, he would embrace that stuff. He'd go on the CB and start to, "This is Darth Vader." And the truckers would be driving in the middle of the night, crapping their pants. Oh, my God, the Dark Lord of the Sith. He's on my channel here. You know, what's your 1020, good fella? Or good buddy? That's a good fella. It's not a trucker. Good buddy. So, yeah, James, he definitely embraced Darth Vader, and we embraced James Earl Jones as the voice of Darth Vader. As Star Wars fans, we've watched Star Wars 500 times. And one of those 500 times I was watching the original film from 1977, I came across a puzzling situation as far as the audio goes. James Earl Jones was delivering a line as Darth Vader. And as we all know, Darth Vader's breathing is regulated by an iron lung that's built into his armor. It's a respirator. He's constantly having oxygen fed to his lungs because they're so singed from the heat of Mustafar, he cannot breathe on his own. He needs that assistance. So Darth Vader himself doesn't have to breathe while the machinery does the breathing for him. Well, if you listen closely to the scene in A New Hope, when they're gathered around with those Imperial officers and Grand Moff Tarkin is there and Admiral Mahdi and he chokes Mahdi and all of that stuff. Famous scene. Yeah. Everyone knows it.
Right.
On board the Death Star. It's the first time we actually see Darth. Well, not the first time. We saw him choke Captain Antilles at the beginning of the film. But this is right before he chokes Mahdi. And I isolated a piece of audio because, as you said, Jason, the Star Wars film, it was low budget for such an ambitious project in the mid-'70s. Right. And it was a rush job in certain points at certain times. And I think the rush job was happening here during the audio sessions and when they would lay the audio of James Earl Jones over the film. They should have edited it a little more than they did, but they were probably running short of time, whatever. So you actually hear James Earl Jones himself breathing on the microphone, which is impossible for Darth Vader to do because Darth Vader is hooked up to a respirator. The respirator, we hear it constantly. You shouldn't be hearing Darth Vader then breathing underneath the respirator. Am I right?
True.
Am I right?
Yeah,
I'm not a doctor.
Right.
I'm not some medical
you're
technician,
right.
but that's how I see it. So I took this piece of audio. Listen closely. Listen closely, and you'll hear James Earl Jones breathing between lines.
A tremor in the Force. The last time I felt it was in the presence of my old master.
It's right before he says,
quick.
Yeah, he says a presence in the Force. Then he breathes. He takes a breath of air. And then he says, the last time I felt it. So we're going to slow it down. We'll actually play it in real time one more time so everyone can hear it.
A tremor in the Force. The last time I felt it was in the presence of tremor in the Force. The last time I felt it was in the presence of my old master.
Well, you hear him breathing all through that thing. So I slowed it down so you can even hear it better. Check this out.
A tremor in the Force. The last time I felt it.
Yeah, I do.
I mean, that's a flaw. That should have been erased. That should have been cut out of the tape.
It's a film flub.
It's a flub.
Yeah.
It's a flub. And that, I've watched these Star Wars films 500, 600 times a piece. I'm almost going to start changing it to, I've seen Star Wars 600 times. What do you think about that, Tracy Morgan? I've seen Star Wars 600 times. And that's the only instance anywhere where I hear James Earl Jones breathing on mic, taking a breath between lines. If you've heard something, let me know. Show at rebelforceradio.com. Also with Anthony Daniels, there's certain times where you can hear him breathing, and droids don't breathe. So the whole thing is a they should have hired me. I would have gone there 7 years old, and I said, just give me the razor blade and point me to the reel-to-reel machine, and I'm going to cut that stuff. So, all right. But so James Earl Jones, beyond the original Star Wars trilogy, he showed up at the end of Revenge of the Sith and folded his arms. That's 2005. Right. We went through a stretch of time where we didn't hear James Earl Jones as Darth Vader at all. As a matter of fact, they brought in the guy who was famous for a YouTube series called Chad Vader. And they brought him in. His name was Matt Sloan. And Lucasfilm LucasArts specifically, brought him in to do the voice of Vader on video games like The Force Unleashed. And he did a really good James Earl Jones voice. But that's not James Earl Jones. So finally in 2014, Star Wars Rebels brought James Earl Jones back into the fold. And you can hear him all in the very first episode, you hear him, and then you hear him all throughout season 2. And with James Earl Jones returning to Star Wars, and we were doing weekly after shows and talking about Star Wars Rebels a lot, we found the opportunity to have a little bit of fun in the old RFR Sound Lab with James Earl Jones returning to Star Wars Rebels. And here's what our crazy minds came up with.
This is LRC-01. I'm bringing in a citizen under a charge of treason.
What?
I'm bringing in a citizen under a charge of treason.
What?
This is LRC-01.
What?
This is LRC...
What? What?
LRC-01. I'm bringing in a citizen under a charge of treason.
What?
Man, we have a lot of fun here at RFR.
It wasn't quite the reintroduction that we were hoping for of James Earl Jones as Darth Vader. A little one note, I might say. I think James was kind of phoning that one in, taking the easy money, but...
Oh, I love it. I have a lot of laughs in that sound lab, man. So, Star Wars Rebels heralded the return of James Earl Jones into the fold as voicing the character of Darth Vader in Star Wars. So the next big production in which James Earl Jones provided the voice for the Dark Lord is, of course, famously Rogue One. And he was great in Rogue One. I mean, it was just felt just so right to have James Earl Jones back and Darth Vader back on the silver screen in a Star Wars movie. You can say it's the best of all of the Disney Star Wars films. Rogue One.
Sure.
Rogue One.
Yes.
Gareth Edwards, great guy, great director. He is the guy who shot the majority of Rogue One. We know about the famous reshoots, etc. But for the large part, the film is Gareth's vision, and he was present for all aspects of the production itself, including the vocal recording, the ADR sessions, the additional dialogue recordings, or whatever ADR stands for. That's not what it stands for. Automated.
Additional dialogue.
No, automated.
Additional, isn't it?
I think it's automated dialogue recording. Automated, I think it is. But that's, when they place it over the film and stuff. And so Gareth was there for those recording sessions.
Automated dialogue replacement.
Replacement. There it is. Yeah, it's an art, in my opinion, the way they are able to dub voices over actors. Sometimes it's the same actor. Sometimes it's an entirely different actor, like Goldfinger, but even like examples from the early 60s, like Goldfinger. It just amazes me at the accuracy in which these audio wizards are able to pull all of that off and give us a sense of reality, that it actually is that person on screen delivering exactly that dialogue. So Gareth Edwards was there for the Darth Vader shoots for Rogue One, and also he was there for the ADR recording sessions with James Earl Jones for Rogue One, and he told a story about being there in the studio with the legendary actor at Star Wars Celebration Europe in 2016. So let's hear what Gareth has to say.
We finished filming in December, and I got straight on a plane to New York to do a voiceover recording with a gentleman called James Earl Jones. Now, I can't tell you what role he plays in the film because I don't want to give that away. But what's really funny is I went there with Matt Wood from Skywalker Sound, and we were doing, and we're all being very professional. And the way that ADR works is obviously they got their back to you, they're watching the screen and they're doing the lines, and then he'd turn around and ask you if that was okay. So every time he'd do a line, and I don't want to give anything away, but there was one point where, and we were all like, yes, hi James, yeah, this is great, you're doing really well, yes, thank you. And then he does this one line where he says the word, power. And we just both looked at each other and had this nerdgasm. And we were like reduced to 3-year-olds. And then suddenly he looked back and we suddenly went, that was great, James, if we could just do that one more time.
I could totally see Matt doing that,
Just one more time. Can you please?
But I know what that's like. You're in the different booth. You're usually separated by a big, thick thing of glass. And you're in there. You got the controls, and the talent is in the other room, and they have a microphone, and you're doing everything you can to maintain the most perfect professional atmosphere and situation for the talent. And then they deliver something like a big Darth Vader line coming from James Earl Jones. And Matt and Gareth are in the producer's booth just freaking out. They're like, high five. Yeah, man. And then Matt calmly hits the thing.
Oh, that's great, James. Can we get one more, please?
It happens. It happens.
Oh.
So that's Gareth
Incredible.
Edwards in 2016, relaying an incredible experience he had working with the late, great James Earl Jones. James was also somebody who wouldn't mind having a little fun, even, poking a jab at himself maybe, just to be a little silly with his world-class vocal cords. And the silliest moment we have in the RFR archives comes from a James Earl Jones appearance on the Gayle King Show. And Gayle handed him lyrics to the Justin Bieber song, Baby, 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 and asked James, with his incredible pipes, to vocalize the lyrics of the Justin Bieber song. So, I want to hear how that all went down, so let's hear the tape.
I love people who've never seen Star Wars.
I know,
I've never heard Justin Bieber.
Yeah.
But here I go.
Okay.
Are we an item, girl? Quit playing. We're just friends. What are you saying? Said there's another, looked right in my eyes. My first love broke my heart for the first time. And I was like, baby, 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 oh, like baby, 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 no, like baby, 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 oh. I thought you'd always be mine, mine.
Oh, God. You have to be somebody like, oh, I'm sorry, my microphone's doing stuff. Check 1, 2. Am I coming through okay?
Coming through.
All right, sorry. But like somebody like Gayle King, who's known on a national level and is on the CBS network and stuff, maybe she can get away with asking James Earl Jones that. But here at Rebel Force Radio, if we ever had that opportunity, I think you or me would have taken that with James as well. And he probably would have obliged. He seems like a cool guy, who would play along.
That's exactly the kind of guy he seemed. Yes, yes. Have fun. Because you don't get the sense that he ever took himself too seriously. I think
well, maybe later in his career, when his legacy had already been firmly established. But I could imagine him as a young man coming up in theater, that he had to deal with challenges just like a lot of actors do, and probably even more so. And so he probably... I think he's the type of guy who took himself really, really seriously in the early parts of his career. And then as he became more publicly known as Darth Vader, I mean, who can't have fun with Darth Vader, And I think that helped him.
Well, when you get a little economic security underneath you, yes, then you can afford to have a little bit more fun.
Absolutely, absolutely. So we had to take the audio from the Gayle King Show, and we ran it down into the old crazy RFR Sound Lab and decided to take the lyrics that James Earl Jones read, the Justin Bieber lyrics, and put it through our Darth Vader filters to try to get a little bit more of a Dark Lord of the Sith take on a Justin Bieber song. So that's what we did.
And I was like, baby, 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 oh, like baby, 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 no.
It still makes me laugh.
Oh, I remember that like it was yesterday. The no is just the perfect little button on the end of that. That's I don't remember him selling it quite to the back of the house like he did there on the Gayle King Show. A little extra something there.
Yeah.
But
that's what happens when it goes through our Darth Vader filters. Yeah. A thing that's been making the rounds since we got the sad news of Mr. Jones's passing is some clips from an appearance he made on The Big Bang Theory. I've been seeing a lot of this stuff getting circulated around. So, of course, we here on Rebel Force Radio want to make sure this is as complete of a tribute to James Earl Jones as possible. And these Big Bang Theory clips are well worth it. So we're going to take a look at the first one. We got a video clip here of a moment in the Big Bang Theory when Sheldon meets James Earl Jones. He's stalking James at a restaurant. And
as he would.
And, their encounter takes an unusual turn.
Let me guess. You like Star Wars.
He nods.
You know, I've been in other movies. But you don't care about those, do you? I have one thing to say to people like you. I like Star Wars, too. Care to join me?
Thank you.
Dream come true as he sits there at the restaurant.
My friend Leonard said if I bothered you while you were eating, you'd think I was a creepy stalker.
Well, your friend Leonard sounds like a real weenie.
He is Mr. Earl Jones. He is.
He calls him Mr. Earl Jones.
Oh, I love it. I love it. You know, if I don't know, I felt like in that scene, because he's there in front of Sheldon, I felt like James as an actor was really channeling the Vader in that scene. He was really hitting those notes, as he was delivering that dialogue, almost like he was trying to evoking him, because you see him in other roles, especially later in when he's on in years, and it's a breezier kind of delivery. But that was awesome. I've never seen that one. The next one I've seen it many times, and I love this. This is one of my all-time faves.
So after dinner, naturally, Sheldon and James Earl Jones hit the town. And they go to a karaoke bar. They do all kind of crazy stuff. And late night, James Earl Jones takes Sheldon into a neighborhood and to somebody's house. And Sheldon's a little confused. And here's what happens.
I don't understand what we're doing. Whose house is this?
Carrie Fisher. And she's a little crazy, so get ready to run.
She comes out with a baseball bat after they rang the doorbell and ran.
Not funny anymore, James.
Then why am I laughing?
The old classic ding-dong ditch situation with Carrie Fisher.
Pranking Carrie Fisher. And the best line of that is, she's a little crazy, so get ready to run.
And, of course, she comes out wearing a robe and holding a baseball bat. Which is usually that's a classic moment, a great moment in sitcom history with James Earl Jones guest starring alongside Carrie Fisher on The Big Bang Theory. Apparently, shooting that was the first time the two of them met.
She showed up, and we learned that Carrie and James Earl Jones have never met in real life, because in Star Wars, James was in a sound booth doing Darth Vader and had never been to the set.
We had a very, little scene that was let it bounce off each other.
As they were approaching each other, Carrie said, "Dad," which was hilarious because Darth is her father in Star Wars. So
it was sweet. It was finally good to meet her.
Obviously, they never shared any scenes on screen in Star Wars.
Right.
Nor, and apparently James voiced all of the Darth Vader dialogue by himself in the studio. But you would have thought they would have met each other at maybe a premiere,
right?
Or something like that. Or just
now,
randomly.
James also, as far as I know, never did the convention scene.
No,
I don't think he ever did a convention appearance.
He didn't. Yeah,
he would have been absolutely mobbed. I can't even imagine.
Yeah, he was never accessible that way. He's the type of guy you stand outside the theater door in the back and wait for the production to end, and then you shove your Darth Vader pictures at him with a Sharpie. And he probably was very gracious and signed everything. Just from judging from what I've
never heard anything otherwise.
Yeah, he just seems like a very
stage door,
warm, personable guy. You know, like your favorite grandpa. You know, but he appeared in The Big Bang Theory. Like I said, that was a great sitcom moment. Other sitcoms paid tribute to James Earl Jones without him necessarily making a guest appearance in them. And one particular shout out I've always enjoyed is from That 70s Show. Kitty and Red went to the movie theater in 1977 to see what all the fuss was about. So they have a little conversation while they're sitting in the movie theater watching Star Wars.
That voice. James Earl Jones.
Eric actually liked this. That kid's on dope.
So a little shout out to James Earl Jones from That 70s Show. And then we're going to wrap up our audio tribute to the late, great James Earl Jones with one of my favorite moments from Star Wars and pop culture history. Comes from this James Earl Jones shout out from the show Glee from Fox. Jason, you were a big Glee fan, weren't you?
I watched a lot of Glee.
Well, occasionally they would throw down some exceptional Star Wars references, pretty much the best holiday special references out there. But this James Earl Jones call out is one of my all-time favorites.
This morning I woke up and decided to swallow the sun. It's my James Earl Jones impression.
First of all, that is offensive. He shot Martin Luther King.
Obi-Wan never told you what happened to your father.
I think that was the other James Earl. I think,
James Earl Ray is who you're looking for, young lady. Boy, the public school system of the Glee universe really let that poor girl down as far as U.S. history goes. But,
You know, and they were supposed to all be going to Ohio schools in that show. So I think they were trying to...
That makes sense.
That's what they were trying to say.
That makes sense. Judging from your ignorance while we were talking about baseball last week, I was like, boy, the Ohio public school physical education departments really let Jason Swank down as a young man.
Boy, they tried. I was a worthy opponent of any physical activity or labor they tried to inflict on me in school. I tell you that.
Well, that's it. That's James Earl Jones.
That's it. Yeah. Yeah.
Gone but not
What a
forgotten. Legend
for sure.
The voice of Darth Vader forever. And I can't wait to see what sort of performances he has in the future for the Dark Lord, knowing that Lucasfilm with AI can recreate his voice on a whim. He might end up as a character.
And only Lucasfilm.
Yeah.
And only Lucasfilm. So they're not going to, the CNN and some of the other things that he's done, that's it. So it's an exclusive rights holding that he has. He lost his wife, I believe, a couple years ago. So he was a widower, but he has a son who is still very active in preserving his dad's legacy. And so anyway, R.I.P. great James Earl Jones. All right. We've got a little bit of Star Wars news here when it comes to Star Wars on television. Just some quick hits here. Jim, rumors are that season 2 of Ahsoka, the only thing we've had that really leads us to believe that there is going to be a season 2 is this sketch that Dave Filoni obviously put together. And it was shared via the official Star Wars Twitter feed, or Twitter channel, of the two characters out on one of the big statue there, and they're kind of out there on the finger of one of the what's that character called? They're on Mortis.
The father?
The father, I think. Yeah, the father.
He doesn't really have a name.
I guess he doesn't. He doesn't have a name. But anyway, this was a sketch that Star Wars put out. But sources are telling Rebel Force Radio that Lucasfilm has targeted an April 2025 as a starting date for filming season 2. So, Ahsoka officially getting a second season, making it only the second Star Wars live-action series to get a second season.
It's interesting.
They're in Mandalorian.
They're waiting so long before they put that thing in front of cameras. And I think the thing that jumps to my mind immediately is that Lucasfilm is already stretched a little too thin on the Mandalorian Grogu film, and they don't have enough resources to put a streaming series in front of cameras until that shooting winds down. And that could be something we should chart going into the future, whether or not Lucasfilm can ever get 2 Star Wars live-action projects underway simultaneously, i.e. one for movie theaters, a feature film, and a streaming series for Disney+. Can they do 2 at once, or is that too much pressure to put on the studio? Because I can't understand why. I mean, it's already been a year since the Ahsoka series dropped. We were talking about it with after shows this time a year ago. So now you're adding another half year, and then it's going to take a full year of post-production before that thing actually ends up on TV screens. With The Mandalorian and Grogu targeting May 2026, Jason, where do you think Ahsoka Season 2 and the release schedule for that will land?
Well, I think that I think there's a couple things at play. Yes, production, resources, all that, certainly a factor. But I also think that they're going to want to create some synergy between the plot of the Mandalorian and Grogu film and somehow tying it in, whether tangentially into, I think, Ahsoka Season 2. I think that the Mandalorian Grogu film is really going to be the point where what's happening, just like in the Marvel Universe, what's happening on the silver screen is lining up with what's happening on the on Disney Plus on the small screen. So I think that's also a factor. But I don't think we're going to see Ahsoka Season 2 probably until, I would guess, at the end of the very earliest we might see it would be at the very end of 2025, December.
2026, you mean?
2026, right.
Yeah. It gets hard to look ahead into the future because always in motion the future is. Flippin' Yoda told us that. So it's hard
I'm thinking back about the quickest turnaround that we've seen so far in the Disney Plus era, I believe would be Mando Season 2 and Book of Boba Fett.
Mando Season 2,
Mando Season 2 and Book of Boba Fett, I feel like there was 1 year in between the end of Mando Season 2. That ended in December of 2020, and then in December of 2021, we had Book of Boba Fett. I think that might be the tightest turnaround we've seen.
Yeah, okay, so we had Mandalorian Season 1, which was on the air when The Rise of Skywalker was released.
Right.
So at that point, we got a 1-2 punch of feature film and streaming series at the same time. Then a year went by, and in late 2020, we saw the debut of Mandalorian Season 2. Naturally. That's the way it should be.
Right.
Right? And that all ended in December 2020. And we waited a year then for Book of Boba Fett, which was essentially Mandalorian Season 2.5.
Right.
And then, well, we had Mandalorian debut in 2023. But of course, there were pandemic restrictions and obstacles to overcome. So that really was the big speed bump along the way. It seemed like things were really chugging along pretty well as far as reasonable pre-production and release dates. I find anything over a year between seasons to be unreasonable. I'm sorry, I do too. I do.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more.
That's unreasonable, especially from a studio that's not putting out feature films and hasn't since 2019. It's unreasonable. And you can use all the excuses about pandemics and strikes, labor, friction, whatever, but
labor difficulties of every kind.
But that all had come to an end by the time we were talking about Ahsoka season 1 in 2023. Mm-hmm. So what's the holdup here? Well, I think Lucasfilm's been going through a little bit of a shakeup, and I think pieces on that playing board have been getting moved around a bit, most notably with Dave Filoni entering into the executive suite and becoming an overseer of all things Star Wars. But what's happened since that? The Acolyte, that's it. And by all accounts, that thing is a flop. So, I just think they need to step up production. And I would have gone, if I was in charge of the studio, I would have really pushed to get the Ahsoka show in front of cameras by this fall and no later. That's a full year of separation between the first season being aired.
It's really hard to keep the momentum going and to keep people's interest. I mean, the diehards, like people listening to this podcast, ourselves included, are going to be there. But how much carryover can there be from season to season when you're waiting 2 years, 2.5 years, 3 years? It's very, very challenging to keep the care going. Why do people care? Now, if they're smart, they will trigger something in that Mandalorian and Grogu film that will then pay off in Ahsoka season 2. It's hard to imagine exactly what that might be because we've got Ahsoka, the lead character, and she's off in the another galaxy.
Right. Yeah.
So it's hard to unless
she comes back in the Mandalorian and Grogu
comes back in the Mandalorian and Grogu movie. Which is possible.
It's possible, but I see a trend with franchise entertainment going more toward standalone storytelling with elements that tie into the big picture, but the story itself is not reliant on that big picture, because it certainly has caused a lot of problems for the Marvel studios with the amount of narrative that they dumped into the streaming series and then expected audiences to follow it into the movie theaters. The box office reflected that, where you shrunk the segment of your audience share down to the people watching the streaming show. And word of mouth affected those films when it got out there that said, well, you have to watch this series and that series and that series. That scared off potential movie ticket buyers. And really affected.
They can't commit to that.
Yeah. And I'm sure the analytics that dig deep into this kind of thing for the movie studios has been revealing this with bright lights, You can't do this.
Those first couple phases of the Marvel films, you could enjoy them and support them as a casual fan.
As standalones.
Every few months there was another superhero movie, and then there was a big team up, and that was cool. But when you started introducing the streaming series on top of that, and maybe the streaming series was focusing on a character that you weren't all that into, but you damn well better watch it because then you'll be lost when the new movie comes out. That's when it starts to get untenable, and that's where I fear Star Wars is at. I think we saw that with the Ahsoka series. I was talking to a friend at the day job just yesterday, and he wasn't watching The Acolyte when it was airing. Now that all the episodes are available, he's been watching it, and he goes, I didn't listen to the after shows because I didn't want to be spoiled. But you guys all liked Acolyte, right? Did you like? And I'm like, okay, you just got to listen to the after shows. I don't want to explain it all to you. But he said, he's a big fan of the Ahsoka character, but he said, after watching Acolyte and thinking back to Ahsoka, he said at least something happened during the Acolyte, whereas Ahsoka, even though he's a huge fan of the character, he's like, not much happened in that show. It was all set up, and it was all predicated on the fact that you had watched every episode of Rebels.
Right. It was wrapping up. It was wrapping up loose ends of Rebels and trying to establish a path into the future.
Yeah.
Which is such a shame because I think you could have taken live action Ahsoka and started fresh without all that Rebels mumbo jumbo. Or if you wanted to bring the Rebels mumbo jumbo into it, maybe in later seasons. Give us something to chew on now. A fresh adventure with Ahsoka where we could really learn about where her character's head is in, and without being attached to characters like Sabine or Hera Syndulla, etc., or even Anakin Skywalker for that matter. For as much as I love that episode 5, that World Between Worlds episode.
Right. I mean, I was thinking about, Tales of the Jedi. They told some interesting Ahsoka stories, or an interesting Ahsoka story in that you could have spent some time with that character before she was on her quest to find Ezra. They were really focused on that and paying off what we saw with Morgan Elsbeth and Ahsoka in Mandalorian. But I agree with you, Jim. I think they would have been much better off introducing and understanding that they sort of needed to introduce the character of Ahsoka to new fans. Yeah. To new fans, to new people. Not necessarily new people new to Star Wars, but people new to Ahsoka.
Yeah. And start fresh with a new foundation. And then start digging into the past, maybe in future seasons. When Ahsoka wakes up one day, maybe having a Force vision of Ezra trying to communicate with her from across another galaxy. Oh my God, Ezra is still alive. Stuff like that. It's just it feels so shoehorned when they just dump it all on you at the beginning. And it doesn't work dramatically, thematically, or in a sense of building any sort of suspense or freshness. It's all been just stripped away. And I can't wait for an Ahsoka season 2. Don't get me wrong. And I have popped in the Ahsoka show from time to time and given it a watch. And Kai Patterson has come up with a new edit of the Ahsoka series. He's created a new Star Wars movie. This is his trademark. And he does it by taking these seasons and cutting out all the crap and occasionally enhancing the visuals or rearranging the way that the story gets laid out. He finds a way to put it all together into a concise, tight package. And I'm a fan. So if you want to find the Ahsoka Patterson cut, which I have not watched yet, by the way, I just need some downtime. God, any downtime can I have just to watch a stupid fan edit of a show? I have to make a reservation for a month ahead of time and put it on my calendar and schedule it in. Yeah. Gosh, man, can I just stop doing everything so I could just watch some Star Wars and relax? But I'm sorry, I was ranting. I'm here to say that he's done.
We're here for you, Jimmy Mac. We are here for you.
I was just very impressed.
Part therapy.
I was very impressed by the edit he did of the Kenobi series, the Kenobi Patterson cut. It's great. And it eliminates a lot of the fat and makes it a more straightforward story that focuses on Vader and Kenobi. And that's all that show should have been focusing in on. The hell with the Inquisitors. I mean, that's that's vaudeville. That's not the focus. Yeah.
I feel like they've never handled these Inquisitors right. At some points they're just disposable, just kind of like a Kleenex box. You just pull the next one out. Here's the next Inquisitor. And then sometimes they're, unstoppable, invincible characters. There's no consistency in the way that this whole Inquisitor subplot, I think has been handled.
Yeah. There's just a bunch of goons. Just like I said, the original concept for Vader, I mean, the way Vader was originally presented was pretty much just a goon. And that's all these Inquisitors are. They're like base level Vader. And I don't know.
Right.
That doesn't really do it for me. Incredible analogy you bring up with the tissue box. I think that's amazing.
Hey, something that didn't make the rundown, but I just want to throw this out there. Jim, I'm sure you saw this. Ewan McGregor, he's certainly always talking, but he's talking again because he's getting the Grauman's Chinese Theater Star on the Walk of Fame treatment here this week. Hayden Christensen is actually one of the featured speakers that's going to be there to congratulate Ewan.
That's great. The bromance.
I don't know if you call it induction.
The bromance continues.
Is that something?
The bromance continues. Yeah. Induction, not necessarily induction. I guess it is an induction. It's more of a commemorative sort of thing, I guess. I don't know.
Right. I don't know what you call it, but dedication?
Dedication.
Maybe it's a dedication.
That's the word.
Long distance dedication. But Variety did a piece with Ewan, just looking back on his career. This is a big moment for him. And Ewan's still talking bullish about doing something else with the Kenobi. Here's a quote from him in the piece. He says, "I really do hope we get a chance to do another one," referring to a Kenobi story, he says. "Between where we ended off in the series and when Alec Guinness comes on screen with Luke Skywalker, I think there's another few stories to tell in there." So this is a recent article. It just hit this week in Variety. He's still very much in favor and in support of doing more as Obi-Wan Kenobi. So Ewan's interest has not waned. Now, Ewan famously would talk on would go on these talk shows before the Kenobi series and would have to deny that anything was happening. And he got very uncomfortable and he made some jokes after it was all said and done about that. But this doesn't seem like this is Lucasfilm asking him to go out there and sort of lobby for this or drop these hints. I guess they're not even hints. They're just, out and out statements that he wants to do this again. So what do you make of this? Do you think that is this just Ewan and Hayden? Because they also interview Hayden in the piece, and Hayden's like, hey, if Ewan is in, I'm in. Do you think these guys are just going rogue, or do you think that they're part of the PR machine that's trying to pump this thing up for another season of Kenobi, or maybe a Kenobi film or something?
Jeff Snyder, entertainment reporter, recently reported that there are several streaming series under development at Lucasfilm right now. And it's and we also know that Kenobi was at one point being considered for its potential as a feature film trilogy. So I think a lot of stories about Obi-Wan Kenobi have been committed to script form and have been flying around the Lucasfilm hallways for the better part of the last decade. And Ewan McGregor happens to know what some of those stories are. And he recognizes potential within those pages and within his connection to what's written on those pages and his connection to the character of Obi-Wan Kenobi. I think you're fools if you're not taking up an actor of the caliber of Ewan McGregor when he says he wants to continue working as Obi-Wan Kenobi. I think you're a fool not to take him up on that and to develop a great story for him. Not for some random inquisitor sharing screen space with him. A story about Obi-Wan flipping Kenobi. And you know what? Disney, if you want to save money and not waste $180 million on your next series, keep it all based on Tatooine. Leave him planet bound. You don't have to jump around to all these crazy other places. You can have a great story within the confines of Tatooine. It's familiar to Star Wars fans. It's familiar to the entire mythology of Star Wars. We know the locations there. They've already been realized and understood by hundreds of creators and millions of fans by this point. So you need to take advantage of this situation when you have a world-class film actor like Ewan McGregor knocking on your door saying, I want to do this.
Yeah.
John Jackson Miller wrote a great novel, Kenobi, and it's completely based on Tatooine. There are no Sith, there is no Empire, there are no Inquisitors, there are Tusken Raiders and Ben Kenobi. and the friendships he develops within the community of Mos Eisley and the farmers and everything. There's so much potential.
Dude, when you watch A New Hope now and you see that scene where they're looking at the Mos Eisley Canteen and he says, this place can be a little rough. You just want to see what was that crazy night in the Mos Eisley Cantina where Obi-Wan learned how rough that place can be.
Yeah,
I want to see that scene.
We want to see him going toe to toe with a walrus man or a Bith or a snaggletooth. And like getting a full-on brawl and have the reputation of the Mos Eisley Cantina tattooed right into his face. That would be outstanding. And that's something I thought we were going to get in the prequels and was sadly disappointed. That's something I thought we were going to get in the Kenobi series. And I was sadly disappointed yet again. What I did like about this Kenobi series was the very few moments where they showed the friction between him and Owen Lars. I think that can be explored so much more than it was.
Oh, yeah.
And Joel Edgerton's a world-class film actor as well.
Sure.
I mean, get him and Ewan McGregor have them in some meaty scenes with each other.
Can you imagine if the two of them ended up on some kind of adventure together, but neither one of them wanted to be there with the other one, but they had to, somehow join forces in order to survive? Like, that'd be a great story.
Yeah,
great
imagine
story.
With the antagonist being not only the Tusken Raiders or the Krayt Dragon or the elements of Tatooine itself. The key protagonist or antagonist could be just simply the friction between Ben Kenobi and Owen Lars and really flesh out what made their differences so profound. That would be very interesting. Keep a kid Luke out of it. Keep Inquisitors out of it. None of that junk, In kid Leia, no kids, okay? No kids hiding underneath trench coats and stuff. That's cartoonish. So when Ewan McGregor knocks, you should answer the door and take him seriously and take the subject matter seriously and keep the story group out of it. For crying out loud, just do a straight up adaptation of the John Jackson Miller novel. You could probably make a trilogy out of that, but whatever.
Yeah. Well, no, it's great to see that Ewan has not lost his passion and his desire to return to the Star Wars universe. And, as you said, Jim, the bromance between he and Hayden, as Hayden officiates or helps officiate Ewan's getting the star in the Walk of Fame. So I think we'll probably they put those up online, and we might have some clips from that next week on RFR. That's happening this week. Okay, it's still in the rumor department. This is something that just kind of hit us, but we have sources that are saying that the High Republic era of Star Wars publishing is winding down.
Yeah. That was a Disney source. That's where we're taking that via Disney source, who has reportedly revealed with a sense of relief that the High Republic era is winding down. This is a report we're getting, folks, and that's all we can say about it. Obviously, we will respect our sources and not reveal any identities or anything like that, but it's a pretty damn trustworthy source, I think, and that's the word, that the High Republic era is winding down. So take that with as many grains of salt that you wish, or you probably like most of the audience and be like, well, I don't even read the High Republic stuff, so that's cool with me. But I'm just saying, if you are a fan of that, be prepared for it to start winding down. Yeah, there's some novels that have been,
there's a new there's an Acolyte novel that seems to be focused on Vernestra that was announced.
Yeah.
And but I don't know that this. It's unclear to me, Jim, if this is. I don't think this is Acolyte season 2.
No,
this seems to be really solely focused on that character and not May and Osha and Chimere and all of that.
Not at all. Maybe you'll get an Indara, Master Indara. Throw it in there. I only say that because the cover art featured her on it. But I believe this will be more like background stuff, things that might set up the Acolyte a little bit. But the stuff
maybe a Mog appearance.
Oh,
get some more Mog.
Sitting at the edge of my seat, and I'm counting down the days till this book comes out. Now, what am I saying? I forgot about Mog. And then there's Mog. But it's there's things in the pipeline that will be coming out probably for the next year or so. But from what we've been led to understand, the High Republic era, most notably in publishing, will be winding down.
Now, speaking of eras, the era is... There's a new era that's going to be tackled by Marvel Star Wars, the comic books, starting with Star Wars issue number 50. They're going to be pivoting. Jim, the focus has been, you've been bringing us this because you've been pretty loyal to the Marvel Star Wars comic books. The era that they've been ensconced in is in between Empire and Jedi. And that ends. And issue 50 is going to start with it's like a mega issue.
It's a mega issue.
It's going to be kicking off with the Battle of Jakku. So those sort of immediate days, months, years following Return of the Jedi. So creating some connective tissue between Return of the Jedi and The Force Awakens.
Yeah.
This is not out yet, right? Star Wars number 50?
It is out. It came out. Yeah, it came out this week. It's fresh.
Okay.
I have it right here. I have the alternates.
There, he's got it.
I collect the
you got the floppy there.
It's an alternate. Yeah, I do. Because I collect these alternate covers that feature action. It's like they look like vintage action figures.
That is cool.
Yeah, and this is an action
Luke Skywalker,
figure.
Rebel Commander.
Yeah, this was never actually released as an action figure. I can sense people are going to be customizing this bad boy soon. So, but that's supposed to be Luke Skywalker, Rebel Commander, and he's got sort of a brown leather jacket on, along with the similar garb he wore at the end of A New Hope, with the yellow jacket. But this is a different look for Luke. Typically, these are based on actual action figures, but the artist, whose name is variant cover artists, his name is John Tyler Christopher. It's been the same artist doing these Star Wars vintage covers for Marvel Star Wars since like 2015. It's been the same artist.
It's really cool.
Doing this, and
iconic
I love
double racetrack. Looks just like a vintage carded Star Wars action figure.
Yeah, I really like these. I have a vast collection of these, and this is a double-sized comic. It's thick. So I haven't had time to read it prior to.
Okay. So you haven't read it yet?
No, and I don't want to spoil it.
Charles
anyway.
Soule.
I don't want to spoil it.
Yeah, right. Written by Charles Soule. Now, Charles Soule, he wrote the Vader series. I know, and you liked that.
I did like that. Yeah, I think he's an okay writer. I mean, he's spinning his wheels a little bit currently with the Star Wars books because the stories have been kind of soft between the era of Empire and Jedi. It's been filled with
See, it seems to me like that would be so fertile. That era. Now, the problem is you don't have Han Solo. And I'm guessing that can hinder the story a little bit because he's such an integral part of that chemistry of that team. So
it's just a lot to pack into a single year of Star Wars, especially a year that happens between two huge events, the end of Empire Strikes Back and the beginning of Return of the Jedi. It's hard to imagine all of the catastrophic events that have happened in the pages of Marvel Comics, happening between the end of Empire and the beginning of Jedi. It would completely reshape the entire universe. These huge events that happen, with a bounty hunter war with the Empire, a droid uprising where a droid tries to take over all the droids and eventually infects Darth Vader himself. All of this.
Oh, my God. It's like a droid virus?
Yeah, an Imperial Civil War. All of this stuff is happening in the year that separates Empire and Jedi. And it's really hard to comprehend these stories all happening. Shadows of the Empire covered this ground, and that was almost acceptable. You could almost accept that as the events that were taking up the character's time in between the two films from the original trilogy. But all of this crazy crap that happens in the Marvel comics it's just like overwhelming and impossible really to place into the Star Wars timeline with any sense of seriousness. But in this 50-page final, that's going to finally wrap up that era between Empire and Jedi in the new Marvel comics. It starts in the future with Jedi Master Luke teaching Ben Solo a lesson about the balance between the light side and the dark side. And so then you flash back to a story about the Rebel Alliance that happens in between Empire and Jedi, but it does also contain certain flashbacks to other events in Star Wars history.
Okay.
Yeah.
So this issue 50 wraps up this Empire, this storyline between Empire and Jedi.
Yes.
And at the same time leads into the next era, which is going to focus on what they're calling the Battle of Jakku era, which is pretty much immediately following the destruction of the second Death Star, all the cleanup work that they have to do in the remnants of the Empire.
Yeah,
so
thank God.
We mentioned this before. If you wanted to dive into Star Wars comics and it seems a little overwhelming, this would be a good time to do it with issue 50 and then going into 51 in this new era.
Yeah, this is a great time to jump on board. When you see those new number ones hitting the stands, we are going to finally get into stories based past the events of Return of the Jedi. And that's where the real fertile area is, I think, for Star Wars storytelling.
30 years.
Jon Favreau was so wise in saying, I'm going to place The Mandalorian 5 years after Return of the Jedi, because he knew he was hitting Star Wars in its most fertile spot as far as continuing the story beyond the original trilogy. And then you have 30 years to fill in before the events of the sequel trilogy. So probably the most fertile of grounds to cover.
Do you think that given the fact that the Mandoverse takes place 5 years post-Jedi, this comic book, this new era for Marvel Comics is going to be post-Jedi, do you see characters perhaps popping in from the Filoni verse? Is that possible? You could see a Mandalorian show up in these stories in a way that they might not be able to do in live action?
One character who is prominent. One character who is prominent at the beginning of The Mandalorian season 1 is Werner Herzog's The Client. What's his deal? I'm dying to find out more about that guy. So if these comic books don't take advantage of that opportunity, then I don't know why we're reading these things anymore.
Hey, before we wrap up, speaking of Star Wars comics, Jim, the question, how did this come up? I'm trying to remember, how did we get on this about Obi-Wan Kenobi and how it might have appeared in the comic books when he was cut in half? I'm trying to remember what spurred this. This is from last week on RFR. I think I asked you.
You asked me if I ever
asked you
if I ever thought Ben Kenobi was sliced in half.
Yes.
Did I ever conceive the idea of Darth Vader slicing him in half, or did I always believe Ben just disappeared once that saber connected? So I started talking about the vintage Marvel comics, and this is from issue number 5, where I said the moment that the saber was connecting with Ben, it clearly looked like he was getting cut in half, but he sort of was.
I'll tell you what. It's wild. If you haven't seen this panel, there's a lot of younger fans that probably haven't. I mean, this is nightmares. This looks like the end of Raiders of the Lost Ark when the Ark of the Covenant gets open and they start melting. Look at this. Death of Obi-Wan Kenobi. This is horrifying. I couldn't believe it when I saw it.
The way I defined it was the moment Vader's saber starts to cut Ben in half, he weirds out, kind of like that Mother Anastasia did in the Acolyte when she was turning into a smoke monster. I mean, it kind of just the waviness and everything.
I get. He sure looks surprised.
Yeah, this doesn't look planned. This does not look planned.
No.
Now, again, Howard Chaykin was the artist here, and he was largely working off of black and white stills and a script. And the script was changing, actually, as Howard was creating these panels. So he didn't really have a full grasp of what was going on. But I think he did ask the question, is this something we see on screen? And the answer was yes. So Howard then devised this nightmarish image of Vader slicing Ben Kenobi in half as Ben weirds out, and the sound of with the sound effect Zrak as Vader's slicing him in half. And as a matter of fact, in the panel there, it says, the Sith Lord brings his sword down, seemingly cutting his elder foe in half. Ben Kenobi's cloak falls to the floor in 2 parts.
In 2 parts. Yeah, that's key because you don't see that in the film. There's no evidence. Vader just steps on it. So you don't see in the movie 2 parts.
From the making of Star Wars TV special from 1977, 78-ish, you can see it on the Blu-ray for the Star Wars Blu-ray. They reveal footage of the difficulty the crew was having in pulling off the effect, where they had an empty cloak of Ben there, and Vader swung at it like a baseball, like he was swinging a bat at a ball.
He does.
Yeah,
he does. He looks like he's sending it out to.
And half the cloak falls and the other half stays there, and then the other half lights on fire. It was and then they show George just oh my God, does anybody have antacid around here? Oh my God. But hey, and also with this comic adaptation, notice in the next panel, when Vader is investigating the mystery of the empty cloak, he's using his lightsaber to like lift up the cloak and poke around at it? Wouldn't the saber just slice it? I mean,
all of us.
You can't use a saber like that. It's not a broomstick.
Oh.
You can't lift something up with the saber. Would just cut it in half.
Right.
Yeah. So
wow.
The physics of Star Wars not exactly apparent to Howard Chaykin or Marvel Comics or even kids of the 70s who we all looked at this panel as like, oh yeah, where's Ben? You know, we're not even thinking about the lightsaber lifting up the cloak and stuff. But so I just wanted to share that with you because
that's so great. That's so great.
It's quite the image.
Piqued my interest as well, and I went back. I don't have the individual copies. What I have is this. This is the Marvel Special Edition. It's kind of an oversized compilation of this. Cost $1.
Yeah,
can you imagine?
Those things were so popular in the 70s, and it was only Marvel was doing these oversized editions. You would find them on the newsstands. I have my copies still.
I have no memory of buying this. I think this was probably my older brother's.
Yeah.
But this, I grew up looking at this thing, and I had completely forgotten about that panel until you put it on the rundown. And I was like, holy crap, is that... that is really something.
Those images are burned into my mind. We didn't have anything on demand back then. There was no VHS, no streaming, no DVDs, no Blu-rays, no cable, no nothing. It was just the comic book was the only way we can relive the films unless we were actually in the theaters themselves. So that's a nice, fun flashback. As we look ahead to the future of Marvel Comics, it's fun to look into the past. Now, Jason, I know you said we're going to wrap up the show with this, but
we have more. We have more stuff we have to talk about.
I just want to do Star Wars and pop culture. I want to do one thing.
We do?
One. I just want to do one.
We don't want to remind people that Rebuild the Galaxy is
All right.
on. So,
all right.
All right. We just this is your PSA. Rebuild the Galaxy Star Wars Lego special premieres on Disney Plus this week. So actually, as this show gets posted up on the feed, you should be able to watch it on Disney Plus. It goes live on Friday, September 13th, Friday the 13th. So check it out, Rebuild the Galaxy. We'll be watching it over the weekend and bringing you our thoughts next week. So there's your PSA.
Our deep thoughts in the Lego Rebuild the Galaxy after show. But no, it's not going to be this.
Get full access to RFR only on Patreon. Patreon.com/Rebel Force Radio.
You may fire when ready.
Patreon.com/Rebel Force Radio.
I did want to do Star Wars and pop culture because we have a pop culture reference. We'll just do one this week, but it's close to the RFR family. You might say it's provided to us from an RFR family member. So we have to do Star Wars and pop culture.
All right, let's do it.
Yes.
Rebel Force Radio.
You've already made that Star Wars reference.
Your source for the Force.
Star Wars parody. There it is. Star Wars and pop culture.
So our good friend Kyle Newman, of course, he's a member of the RFR family. We've been talking Star Wars with him forever. Well, as some of our listeners probably know, his lovely wife, Sin, is a legitimate pop star who is mentored by Katy Perry. So she's the real deal. Don't kid yourself for a second. And Sin has really achieved something great. She's released the first side of her first album. You might call it an EP. You can call it whatever you want. I just want you to listen to it. It's Valley Girl, Side A, Lost on Laurel. And it's available now wherever you stream music. And like Kyle, Sin is a dyed-in-the-wool Star Wars fan who cares greatly and shares a deep passion with us for our favorite film franchise. And so knowing this about Sin, you know that she couldn't release side A of her new album without including a few Star Wars references. And that's what's so great about Sin, and that's what's great about the entire Newman family. is these guys are the real deal when it comes to Star Wars, and Sin says it loud and says it proud. On the track, the first track of the album, I Don't Care. Listen closely for the Star Wars reference.
I want now and I want later. You can't force me, Darth Vader.
Oh, I heard it. Darth Vader.
Well, you're sharp, man. You're sharp. You picked up on that. That's pretty good.
Did.
It's the lyric is I won't now and I won't later. You can't force me, Darth Vader.
Yeah.
Well, you know, it does continue. The track does continue with a rhyme to Darth Vader. She says, you can't force me, Darth Vader, dropped you like a hot potato. So she says potato. I say potato, but that's Sin. And the first Star Wars reference from her album, Valley Girl, side A, Lost on Laurel. It just jumps right out at you. You know, she's throwing down. You know, she's laying law right there. Darth Vader will not have any influence on our pal Sin. But it doesn't stop there, Jason. There's more. On track 3, Be Like Her. I got to say, I really do like this album. Be Like Her features yet another Star Wars reference.
And the crowd goes wild when she walks in. Yeah, it's so my style to say, hi, I'm Sin, but be cool about it. She lives next door to Mark Hamill.
Did you catch it? You caught it?
She lives next door to Mark Hamill? Is that what I heard?
Yeah. The song is Be Like Her. And there's a Mark Hamill reference. I mean, that's not just like random, you know. That's really well thought out. And, you know, she wants to be like the woman who lives next door to Mark Hamill. I think that's outstanding and uncommon. And I hope this gets back to Mark as soon as possible. And because I think Mark would love this. The lyric
Mark's
is
pretty friendly, or Kyle's pretty friendly with the Hamills.
This is true. The lyric is, and the crowd goes wild when she walks in. Yeah, it's so my style to say, hi, I'm Sin. But be cool about it. She lives next door to Mark Hamill. Okay.
Baby. Oh. Anybody else getting James Earl Jones reading Justin Bieber lyrics when Mac reads the Sin lyrics?
And the crowd goes wild
giving
when she walks in.
Totally giving James.
She lives next door to Mark Hamill. Yeah.
It was great.
So that's
hey, check it out. Yeah.
And also, I have to throw out another plug. Surprisingly, there was another album release from the RFR family last week. My son Michael McInerney is a musician. He's a songwriter. He's a singer. He's a guitar player. He has a band called The Vaughan Building. VAUGHAN. The Vaughan Building. Some people think they're a tribute act to Stevie Ray Vaughan, but that's not true. The Vaughan Building is the name of the gymnasium on their high school campus where these kids all went to school. They went to school and they went to gym at the Vaughan Building. So they thought, well, we'll just name the band The Vaughan Building. And he's released his first album with the guys in the band, a great band, and Michael wrote a majority of the songs on this album. He sings lead on a majority of the songs on this album. He plays guitar on all the tracks on this album. And we're very proud of it. He's very proud of it. We're very proud of him. And the guys have been really working hard over the last several years, playing all the bars and street fests you can think of in the Chicago area. And they continue to do so. But now they're fueled by their first album release called Sockin' It To Ya, The Vaughan Building. And you can listen to it. You could stream it anywhere. Streaming is available. It's on all the platforms. And if you go to one of Michael's live gigs, you can actually purchase a physical copy of the CD. So we're proud of him to achieve that, scratch that off his bucket list, create a physical representation of the creativity that he's been devoting a majority of his entire life to. That's something that I always encourage my family to do, is embrace creativity and just go for it. And Michael did, and we're really proud of him. It's good garage rock, roots rock, blues rock, any kind of rock you can think of is represented on this album. Check it out. So you got your listening assignments for the weekend. This weekend, listen to Sin, Valley Girl, Side A, Lost on Laurel. Listen to the whole thing. It's outstanding. And if that album doesn't pump you up, I don't know what will. And also listen to The Vaughan Building, featuring Michael Mack and his band of musical misfits as they perform Sockin' It To Ya, a great album filled with a lot of great music. I think you guys will really like it.
Chewie, get us out of here!
All right, that's going to do it for us at Rebel Force Radio. Thank you so much for hanging with us. I love these sort of potpourri type episodes that we get, where it's just a little bit of this, a little bit of that, some new stuff, some old stuff. I mean, we really ran the gamut this week talking about the future of Star Wars shows, live action Star Wars on TV and the big screen, and also talking about the old Marvel comics
and the new ones.
And the new ones all over the place. But that's what makes this such a great hobby, such a great lifestyle as being a Star Wars fan. It is a hobby. It is a lifestyle. And we celebrate it here each and every week on Rebel Force Radio. Thank you all so much for hanging out with us. Don't forget, if you need more, and why wouldn't you, want more Rebel Force Radio in your life, you can find it at Rebel Force Radio over on Patreon. Every show that we do here is recorded on video. We release the full show video, and sometimes think of it like a director's cut in some ways. There's like different things that you see or hear in the video that you don't get in the audio podcast. So I know some people like to listen to both. They like to watch the video. They like to listen to the podcast. So it's a great way to sort of see a little bit behind the scenes. Sometimes, we'll do a little something, say a little something. It doesn't make the regular podcast, but it makes the video. So check it out. In addition to all of the exclusive podcasts that Jimmy was talking about earlier in the program, RFR Q&A, the Babu Freaks, and the Adventures of Cal Kestis there with RPG. It's all available for you on Patreon, patreon.com/Rebel Force Radio. Please do watch us on YouTube. Many of the things, especially when we're really referring to some visuals, we like to get those out on YouTube, so those clips are available. Please please subscribe, and it's not going to be too long. December 3rd, we've got Skeleton Crew, and that's going to usher in a whole new season of RFR after shows where we'll be hanging out together in the aftermath of each episode drop of Skeleton Crew, talking about it, taking your calls. And when you subscribe to us on YouTube, you get those notifications about when we're about to go live. And I'm not a betting man, but I might think between now and Skeleton Crew, we might do a couple of live episodes of RFR, get some listener calls in.
Yeah.
The holidays coming up, and
we miss you guys.
So we really do. And Matt gets to see Tyler all the time. I don't get to see Tyler except when we're doing the live shows. So I want to see Tyler. But we're also on all of the social channels and platforms. X. We're on Instagram. We're on Facebook. So look for us at Rebel Force Radio. And hang out with us. Talk to us in between shows. We love to hear from you. We love to have your subscriptions if your podcatcher of choice allows you to do so. Love to have those. We love to hear from you in terms of your reviews of the podcast. Please leave a review. We read them all. The good, the bad, the ugly. Oh, you wouldn't believe some of the reviews we get. We ought to do a show sometime where we just read the worst reviews. It would be great. You know how, was it was it? Jimmy Fallon will have the guys come on, the guests come on, and they'll read like mean tweets,
Yeah.
that people say about him. We're going to do mean reviews someday. You wouldn't believe it. Anyway, check it out. We love to have your reviews. Just one simple rule, please.
Make them good.
Not mean.
No.
Some of them are real mean.
Yeah.
But anyway, we love hearing from you. Thank you all so much for joining us. It's always a pleasure to hang out with each other and with you all and talk about Star Wars each and every week here on RFR. That's going to do it for us. We'll see you next week, next time on the Rebel Force Radio Podcast. We are your source for the Force. Until next week, for RFR, I'm Jason.
I'm Jimmy Mack.
And remember,
the Force will be with you, always.
I have seen Star Wars 500 times.
I like Star Wars too.
And I was like, baby, 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 oh, like baby, 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 no.